Welcome back to another day of art fun. We're going to get our supplies out and ready because it is another painting day. So go ahead and get out a white piece of paper, our paint and our paint brushes. We're going to want that value sheet out too, just to reference. And then for things from home, we're going to need a ruler and a pencil. And then, stuff to make sure that we're not making too much of a mess as we are painting. So maybe having like a table covering down, a water or brush cleaning station, some sort of a paper plate or painter's palette, and you might want to put a smock on too, just to keep our clothes from getting too messy. So let's get started. All right, I've got my piece of paper here, and we're going to notice that it is landscape. That's the wide way. So not up and down, this way here. And our first job is going to be to take our ruler or straight edge, and we want to draw with our pencil a box in the middle of our paper. Okay? So I'm just using my ruler to kind of help. So I'm making nice straight lines. You can see I'm using a pen instead of a pencil. That just makes it a little bit easier to see it on our video. I have found that pencil can be a little tricky to see. All right, I'm rotating my paper, and we might need to make a few adjustments as we go here, but basically you just want to make that box shape. If it's a little bit off, we're not too worried about that at all. You can see I've got a little space there, so I'll just go ahead and make that a little bit nicer. Connect those. Okay, so far we've got a box. Yay us, that looks great. But what we want to do now is make it into a cube. So making it look three-dimensional. Here's how we're going to do that. We're going to make diagonal lines from these three corners. So my first diagonal line, maybe only like an inch or two back, something like that. And then the same thing, I kind of want to just shift it up until it goes to that next corner, and just about the same length line, something like that. And then the same thing up here. Once again, we're just taking it and shifting it here and making that line. So it's going to look kind of silly, but something kind of like that. And once again, if they're a little bit off, we're not worried about that. It's going to be totally fine. If you need to, take a pause in the video to get this drawn out, but whenever you're ready, our next step is going to be to connect these lines. So I'm going to connect from here to here, just like this. And then I'm going to connect from here to here, just like that. And isn't that cool? Now it looks like a 3D, a three-dimensional cube. So neat. Okay, one other thing that we got to do with our ruler before we put that away. We're going to draw a straight line all the way across the paper, but make sure you don't draw it through the cube itself. So it's going to just look something kind of like this. Gives our cube something to sit on. That's a good thing. All right. We can put our pencil and our ruler away, and now it's time to get out some painting supplies. You'll probably remember we always want to start with lightest colors first, so we are going to be starting with our tint. Here is my white, and I'm going to put that into one section of my painter's palette or plate or whatever you've got. And I'm going to pick a color. I'm going to do a different color. Let's see. How about we go with kind of this beautiful dandelion yellow color. I'm going to go with that one. Pick a paintbrush and let's mix it all together. As a reminder, when we're mixing these, we just want to try to get it nice and creamy. You don't want to see too much of like the lininess or like that marbling effect. That way it's all nice and even. And we're going to pretend that the light is coming from the top. So we're going to paint the top of our cube is going to be the lightest. And don't worry if you get outside the lines a little bit, that's okay. You can always try to make it a little bit more clean once we get to the background color too. So the top of your cube is going to be the tint of whatever color you've chosen. Okay, I'm going to wash off my brush here. And the next one is going to be our hue. So remember, our hue is just as it comes right out of the tube. And that's going to be the front of our cube. Right there. I might need a little bit more. I don't even need to mix this because it's just the hue. I'm going to grab a new paintbrush and we're going to paint the front of our cube with the hue that we've chosen for today's project. There we go. And kind of go back in and make it not look quite so liney, but I've got it nice and spread throughout. Of course, if you need to take more time to paint yours, pause the video as needed. Beautiful. Whenever you're ready, we're going to move on to our tone next. So here we go. I need to first make a gray, as we know. So I'm going to put my white in first. And then I usually like to take just a teeny tiny amount of black. Black is such a powerful color. So I always put it into its own little section first, just because that would have been way too much paint. Way too much. So let me get another brush. I'm just going to pick up a teeny tiny amount of black and mix that on in with my white to make a gray. Once I've got my gray all mixed up, that's when I can go on in and add my hue, my color that I've chosen, into the gray to make our tone. Which part of the box do you think is going to be the tone? What do we got left here? That side area, right? Absolutely. So here we go. Putting the tone over here. I probably should have chosen a smaller paintbrush for this one, but we're committed now. There we go. It's going to be a little tricky to get to those corners, but that's okay. Oh, it's looking pretty cool, isn't it? I love it. All right, there we have it. Now, this is the point in the video where you will want to pause and paint your background, both this part and this part, whatever color you want it to be. It does not have to be the same color as your cube, okay? So we're going to need to paint those, and we're going to need to give them time to dry. That's probably the hardest part of today, is having patience. We got to let it dry. So depending on how thick your paint is, depending on how dry or humid it is at your home right now, will depend on how long, but usually like a half hour is more than enough time. So go ahead and paint the top and the bottom of your background, give it some time to dry, and then come back to this part of the video. Okay, obviously I can't paint it and let it dry that quickly, so I am just going to not paint my background, and I'm going to show you the next step. Okay, next step is going to be our shade. You probably noticed we've got our tint, we've got our tone, we've got our hue, but we haven't gotten to the shade yet. Well, that's going to be our shadow. So remember, lightest color always first. And I'll put that cap back on nice and tight to make sure that it doesn't get all over the place. All right, and I'm going to mix in just a little bit of black with that. Let me find a better paintbrush. So here we go. Getting just the teeniest tiny, look at that, a little bit. And mix that on in. And if I feel like I need more, I can always add more, but once you add it in, you can't really take it away. So let's see, how's that looking? I might just do the teeniest, tiniest amount more. So once again, just a little bit. Let's see how that looks. Especially with such a light color, I don't want to go too dark too quick. But that's looking pretty good. Okay, so now what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to create my shadow. So from the side that has the tone, go ahead and just almost make like a diagonal line all the way to the edge of the paper. Like that. And like that. And this is going to be the shadow. It's going to go right over whatever color you've already painted and let dry from the background. It's going to go right over the top of that. And it's going to create this long, stretched out shadow with our shade. Boop. Get that line even. There we go. And that's another way we can help remind ourselves that when we say shade, using that term in art, that it's dark like a shadow would be. So I hope you love how this turned out. It's going to give that really cool 3D effect, and I can't wait to see it. Don't forget to add it into our Art Hall of Fame. I will see you again next time. Bye.